Right, as I go over the question, you need to ask questions if you don't understand something. Okay? So the first question, 2.5. So 2 to the power of 2n in brackets plus 6 times 2 to the power of n minus 1. That's all over 5 times 4 to the power of n. Okay, wait, just give me a second. You have got that. This question, right, all that is inside a square bracket. All right? It's inside the bracket. I'm sure by now you should know that if you have got an expression inside brackets, you have to remove the brackets first. Okay? But there are times when you just have to simplify what's inside the brackets first. Okay? So for this question here, you are not allowed to distribute this minus 1 into the bracket. The reason is because of this addition of terms. Okay? Because of that addition, you cannot distribute the negative 1, this negative 1 inside the bracket. But what you can do is to simplify what's inside. But before I do that, I want you to be aware that we can use definition number 2, that is x to the power of minus n equal to 1 over x to the n. Okay, we can use that definition. So I can swap the numerator and the denominator. Okay, because of this minus 1. If at this stage you've understood this definition, you need to know that this is a fraction. Okay, because of this negative exponent, which is minus 1, I can swap these two and make the exponent positive. Okay, so that's where you can also start. Or you can just simplify everything which is inside the bracket, and then later you introduce definition number 2. Okay, so in my case, I'm going to keep the bracket as it is. Right? If I keep the bracket as it is, inside, because of this, or some of you, I don't understand when I taught you whether you heard me say this, but I said it. If there is addition or subtraction of exponential terms, it means you have to factorize. Okay? It means you have to factorize. So you have to identify a common factor. Sometimes you have to create the common factor and then factorize. Okay? So here, the first term is 2 times 2 to the power of n. I'll leave it as it is. The 6, I can write it as a product of two prime bases or prime factors, which will be 2 times 3 times 2 to the power of n minus 1, all over 5 times 2, all squared. For now, I'm going to write it like that. Okay? But later, I'm going to remove brackets and then I'll simplify. Then, my next step is to create the common factor. Okay? To create the common factor. Right? Don't forget to put everything inside the square bracket and then raise that to the power of minus 1. Right? Then, the next thing, I'm going to use law 1 there, moving from the right hand side towards the left hand side. Because I want to create that common factor. Okay? So this will become 2 times 2 to the power of n plus 2 times 3 times 2 to the power of n times 2 to the power of minus 1 all over 5 times. Now this 2 squared all raised to the power of n, I can split it into 2. Okay? I can swap this 2 and the n so that I can end up having 2 to the power of n all squared like this. Okay? 2 to the power of 2 all raised to the power of n is the same as 2 to the power of n all squared. It's the same thing. Okay? That's the same thing. I think it should be law number 3 or 4. Okay? So you can use that. So if I use that, right, then I need to identify my common factor. I'm now aware of this. So my common factor, I can write this as 2 to the power of n times 2 to the power of n, which means my common factor is going to be that 2 to the power of n. Okay? Because this 2 squared all raised to the power of n, I can write it as 2 to the power of n all squared, which is the same as 2 to the power of n times 2 to the power of n. So I can write it like that. So I've got a common factor that's 2 to the power of n. Okay? Any question? Any question? No? Okay. Any question? Right, if you don't have a question, then let me move on to. So I'm going to take out 2 to the power of n. If I do that, I'll get 2 to the power of n. Then, remember, I still have got the square bracket. Okay? So I need to introduce a circular bracket inside. So my first term of the binomial numerator is going to be a 2 inside the bracket. So I'll have a 2 there plus. Since this 2 to the power of n is my common factor, I also want you to be aware that the exponent of this 2 is a 1. So these 2 will cancel out. This one here and that 2 to the power of minus 1. Do you agree with me on that? Yeah. Using which law? Yeah. Law 1. You're multiplying bases, add the what? Exponents. 1 plus minus 1 gives you 2 to the power of 0. 2 to the power of 0 is a 1. Okay? So it means I'm going to be left with that 3. Okay? In the numerator, I'm going to be left with that 3. Right? My denominator, okay, for now, let me write down my numerator. So this will be plus 3. Okay? All this is under one common denominator, so that will be 5 times 2 to the power of n times 2 to the power of n, all raised to the power of minus 1. You can't factorize the denominator because it's a product. It's not a sum. It's a product. You don't factorize a product. You factorize a sum or a difference of terms. This denominator here, it's 5 times 2 to the power of n times 2 to the power of n. So you can't factorize it. Okay? So it's a monomial actually. Okay? You remember what a monomial is. It's one term. You can multiply the 5, the 2 to the power of n, and the second 2 to the power of n. So you can't factorize that. Okay? So you can now cancel this and 1 of those 2 to the power of n. Okay? If you follow the laws of exponents, you use the correct mathematical concepts like factorization, simplification, the answer will come out nicely. Okay? Then the next step, my numerator there is going to be 2 plus 3, that will give me a 5. My denominator is going to be 5 times 2 to the power of n, all this is raised to the power of minus 1. And I'm sure you can see that this 5 and that 5, they are going to cancel out because of the second law of exponent. Okay? Once they cancel out, I'll end up having 1 over 2 to the power of n, all raised to the power of minus n. And as I told you earlier, if you've got a fraction like this, and their exponent is a negative 1, you just swap the numerator and the denominator and change the exponent to a positive exponent. So this will become 2 to the power of n as your final answer. Okay? And then you are done. Any question? If you don't have a question, then let me move on to the next one. Now, the second one was the easiest of the two. Right? So the second of the three rather. So 2.7, the square root of 5 squared minus 4 squared plus 1 over 3 raised to the power of 0 minus 2 to the power of 3 times 2 to the power of minus 4 all over 2 to the power of minus 2. Okay? Let me warn you, because when I marked your weight, some of you, I saw a mistake being done. You see, this is the square root of the difference between 5 squared and 4 squared. You don't split it up into square root of 5 squared and minus square root of minus 4 squared. No. The difference is inside the square. So find the difference first. Okay? 5 squared is 25. 4 squared is 16. So this will give you, okay, before I simplify it, it will give you the square root of 25 minus 16 plus the base is raised to the power of 0, so the answer is a 1. You don't need to think there. Okay? Whether the base is a billion or a trillion, as long as the exponent is a 0, the answer is a 1. You don't have to think. Then here, the base is the same throughout, so use law number 1 and law number 2. So if I use both of them, I'll have 2 to the power of 3 plus minus 4 minus 2, like that. So for the 2 to the power of 3 and the 2 to the power of minus 4, I use the first law of exponents. That's why I added here. That's why I put addition. First law of exponents. One of the exponents is positive, the other one is negative. But the basic concept is law 1. Then, because of this 2 of that minus 2, the base is part of the denominator, so you subtract the exponent. Since the exponent is negative, you have to put it inside brackets, like how I did here. Okay? Once you do that step by step nicely, you won't have any issues. The answer will come out. Okay? Then here, 25 minus 16 is a 9. Okay? So you get square root of 9 plus 1 minus. Now here, 3 minus 4 will give me negative 1. Right? This minus and that minus give me a positive 2. So it will be minus 1 plus 2, which gives you a positive 1. So you end up having minus 2 to the power of 1. And this will give you 3 plus 1 minus 2. And then you get 4 minus 2. And the final answer will be a 2. And then you're done. Those who did the work, who I saw the work, a number of you got this right. Thank you so much. Okay? All right? If you understand exponents, you are going to find that maths is going to become a bit easier for yourself going forward. Because the topic and the concept is applied in other topics. So you have to know exponents. There's no way out. You have to know exponents. right? And the last one was 2.10. Am I right?
Yes.
So it's 4 raised to the power of x minus 1 minus 3 times 2 to the power of 2x minus 4 all over 2 to the power of 2x plus 1 minus 5 times 2 to the power of 2x minus 3. All right, even for your examination, make sure you take note of what I'm about to say now. If you see an exponential expression that has got an addition or subtraction of exponential terms, it means you have to factorize first. Don't start doing unnecessary crazy stuff. No. Then find the common factor. If it's not there, create the common factor, then factorize. So here, because of this minus and that minus, it means you have to identify a common factor. You have to create a common factor in both the numerator and the denominator. Okay? So the next step, any base which is not prime, you convert it to a prime base. You are most likely to get a mark just for converting a base to a prime base. Any non-prime base, convert it to a prime base. So this 4 is going to be 2 squared. And don't try to do the math inside the head. Write it down and do it step by step. So this will fall the same as 2 squared, then you put it in brackets. The exponent outside is x minus 1. Minus 3, right? For now, I'm not going to use the first law. I'll write this second term as it. So 3 times 2 power of 2x minus 4. Right? My denominator, I'm going to write as it is. 2 to the power of 2x plus 1 minus 5 times 2 to the power of 2x minus 3. Okay? Then I'm going to remove the bracket here. And when you remove the bracket here, be aware that these two here, it multiplies both the x and the negative 1. It multiplies both of them. Okay? So, you end up having 2 to the power of 2x minus 2 minus 3 times 2 to the power of 2x minus 4 all over 2 to the power of 2x plus 1 minus 5 times 2 to the power of 2x minus 3. And please, we have got binomial exponents here. You must write the base. The base is the 2. We have binomial exponents. Okay? Now, I'm sure you can see, just at a glance, the first time you see this step here, you can easily see that the common factor is what? It's 2 to the power of 2x. You can see that. You just need your eyes to see that. No thinking involved. There's no thinking there. You are just identifying that, okay, this is the common factor. Okay? So I'm going to break every term up using the first law. Okay, moving from the right hand side of the first law towards the left hand side. Okay, so my next step is going to be, let me try to write it kind of on your so you can see as well. So this 2 to the power of 2x minus 2, I'm going to write it as 2 to the power of 2x times 2 to the power of 2. Sorry, it's a minus there. So that would be minus 2. Right? Minus 3 times 2 to the power of 2x times 2 to the power of minus 4. All over. My denominator is going to be 2 to the power of 2x times 2 to the power of 1. Minus 5 times 2 to the power of 2x times 2 to the power of minus 3. So you might need to have that. And please, I never taught you that you can cancel out this 2 to the power of x, that 2 to the power of x, this 2 to the power of x, that 2 to the power of x. Don't do that. Show us the factorization in the numerator and the factorization in the denominator. Show us. Okay. Your next step is to show the factorization. Well, that factorization normally it has got a mark. Yes. Okay, generally you cancel out after taking out the common factor. Okay, or if there was a monomial in the numerator, a monomial in the denominator, if there are like terms in the numerator and denominator, then you can cancel out. Now here, because of this minus and that minus, don't cancel out just like that. Factorize. Okay? Factorize. So your numerator, if you factorize, you get 2 to the power of 2x. I'm only taking out the term which I want to eliminate, which is 2 to the power of 2x. Right? Times 2 to the power of minus 2, minus 3, times 2 to the power of minus 4, all over. The denominator will be 2 to the power of 2x times 2 to the power of 1 minus 5 times 2 to the power of minus 3. Right? Then, now I can cancel out those things. By cancelling out, okay, I want you to be aware that by cancelling out, it's a shortcut way that teachers use. It's not cancelling out actually. It's application of the second law of exponents. Because the base is the same, the exponents are the same. So 2x minus 2x gives you 0. 2 to the power of 0 gives you 1. So it's not mathematically, it's not cancelling out. It's the use of the second law of exponents. Okay? Then, let's simplify what's inside the bracket. 2 to the power of minus 2, by now you know that is the same as 1 over 2 squared is 1 over 4. Okay? You should know that by now. 2 to the power of negative 2, 1 over 2 squared is 1 over 4. 2 to the power of minus 4 is 1 over 2 to the power of 4, which is 1 over 16. So, this becomes 3 over 16, all over. This is a 2 minus 2 to the power of minus 3 is the same as 1 over 2 cubed, which is 1 over 8. So I will end up having 5 over 8 there. Okay? Then we need to simplify that. Now, simplifying where I am now, it's no longer grade 10. Grade 8 and 9, knowledge of fractions. Okay? So 1 over 4, which is a quarter, minus 3 over 4. They have a common denominator, which is 16. So this becomes, okay, let me move on to the next page. The 1 over 4 becomes 4 over 16 minus 3 over 16, all over. The denominator 2 minus 5 over 8, right? This 2, if I find the LCD, is going to become 16 over 8. Okay? 16 minus 5 will give me 11. So I'll get here 11 over 8. Then my main division line is this one here. So I have to convert that to a division sign. But before I do that, 4 over 16 minus 3 over 16, that will give me 1 over 16. Divided by 11 over 8. And this will end up becoming 1 over 60 times 8 over 11. Like that. Right? If you don't know, if you have got issues with fractions, then this question will give you a hard time. And this becomes, there's a common factor here, which is 8. So 8 into 8, 1, 8 into 16, that's a 2. So you have 1 times 1 gives you 1, 2 times 11 gives you a 2. So you get, 22. So your final answer is 1 over 22. Okay. Thank you so much to those who sent their work. There are a number of you who got that right.